right, welcome everyone. We have Drew Ganther, the VP of Worldwide Sales at Grip Security with us now. Drew, welcome to the Cybertruck.
Thank you.
Cyber CROs in a Cybertruck.
First time in a Cybertruck.
Me too.
It's pretty cool.
Yeah, I'm an expert of 4 hours right now. How about that?
Oh, well, you've got 4 hours more than I do, so I'll trust you.
Yeah, definitely a lot of trust going on here. But yeah, now lunchtime on the first day at RSA. It's sunny. It's really busy. When I started off my first drive this morning at 9, it wasn't nearly so busy. A lot easier to drive around, but now it's pretty packed out there. How's your first day been of the real conference?
I think we're still warming up. It's been great. It's busy as usual. I am not regularly in the actual conference center. I tend to post up at the WorkWise where YL sponsors meeting spaces, and I just kind of hold court there and have a lot of CISOs and partners and just, cycle through meetings and try to stay put. So today that's been working really well. Tomorrow it'll be a lot more run around and probably be late to every meeting and the usual RSA shuffle.
The usual stuff. So tell us about your first ever RSA conference.
Man, so funny enough, my first ever RSA conference was not that long ago. I spent a lot of time in the channel before getting into the innovation space. And so as a channel rep, RSA was not that needed, right? It just didn't make a whole lot of sense. So first RSA was 2020.
Okay.
Which means I came to RSA and left.
You're a super spreader.
Literally left. No, luckily didn't get it, but it was like this weird aura of is this news real? Are we all leaving the conference right now? What the heck is going on?
Wow.
And so didn't make it through the whole RSA. It was a very non-traditional RSA experience as my first one, but I think the past 2 years have been back to what everybody expects RSA to be.
Yeah, it feels like, I remember last year, there wasn't the optimism because a lot of layoffs going on, a lot of stuff, that wasn't good. And you companies, I think one of the companies just laid off 70% of their sales force and things like that. It was cautious optimism, but oh my God, you hear what happened to that, right? Whereas this year, there seems to be more optimism and more energy on the floor as far as I can work at anyway.
Yeah. Yeah, it's interesting how the market has shifted so much. You see a lot of the publicly traded companies cutting people yet reporting bigger profits than they ever have. And it's a really interesting economic environment, but the way that it's trickled down into the innovation world, I think we feel the extremes of minor changes so much more than other sectors of industry. So you're absolutely right. Last year was a very strange tone, but it did match what I see happening across buyer budgets and just overall approach to how people are adding a ton more scrutiny to any additional spend than they used to. So, we felt it. We're still feeling it. I do see a little bit of recovery happening and budgets starting to open up again. So that's a good thing.
Well, what are your teams seeing in terms of the justification side? Are they able to really put together strong business cases and tie to big business outcomes, or are they find they're getting marginalized a little bit by buyers and not getting the chance to really put these things together?
I think they have to. I'm not going to tell you that they're all, A+ at it.
Yeah.
And I think it's how you approach getting your customer, especially your champion, to lean into building it with you, right? I don't think a business justification or an ROI model or, anything like this can be something you just drop on a customer's desk and say, look, here's the proof right here. That's never going to land. So I think the trick is getting your champion who's feeling enough pain to actually want to be a real champion to lean into building the model with you and have a framework, but get their input. Make sure that they can stand on what you're putting in there, that it's not just what you're handing to them. Both from making sure that they can defend it, right? And they understand it through and through because they built it with you. But also just that buy-in, right? They have to believe it or else it just, So I think they have to in order to get deals done nowadays. But it's an area that I'm constantly driving for improvement across the sales.
I read something really good recently, which made me stop and really think about it. And that was, someone said, I taught the CFO years ago And they said, one of the things you got to realize is the purpose of the sales cycle is to build the business case for change. And it kind of made me stop and go, well, first of all, that's not what I've been doing all my career. And
Why did anybody tell me that?
And secondly, I thought, you know what? That's a great perspective. And it kind of made me really think about, what I was doing and how I approach things. How does that strike you, that phrase?
I mean, I'll tell you, it's easier said than done, but it's the essence of the gold standard, like what good looks like. This is how, as you build a story of guiding, I think about, I think Hillebrand is the author of Building a Story Brand. I don't know if you're familiar
Donald
with this
Miller?
book.
Yeah.
Yeah, Donald Miller.
Yeah.
And it's like, it's not too different than your typical Hollywood plot of you've got your protagonist, you've got some hero that saves them from going down a terrible path and leads them into the better future.
Right.
Like this is what you just explained is very much that. And everybody kind of understands it in concept, but getting sellers to really get out of feature benefit and solution selling, like, traditional mindsets and really just get down to that business value of why should they change? Why should they do anything? I think the biggest competition that most startups especially have is do nothing.
Yeah.
It's not the rest of the people in that space. It's the do nothing aspect. And so, I love what you said. I wish there was a silver bullet to make it easier to get, scaled teams to really grab a hold of that. But that's it. That's what you're going for.
I think for me, it captures a mindset. If you approach what you're doing with a completely different mindset of, I'm not selling a product with features and benefits. I'm actually trying to figure out, well, how would I help this company make a change? And is it worthwhile making the change? And if it is worthwhile, how much worthwhile is it? And for me, that mindset would be a really good thing for, I think, many people to think about. How do I adopt that, as opposed to, unfortunately, what happens at tech companies, especially cyber, is we're inundated with product stuff all the time. Our product does this, and it's got new features, and we got new thing. It's us, product and product and product.
Yeah. Well, there's a benefit, so why wouldn't you buy it? There's a benefit, and like, of course, isn't this obvious, right? Like, I can measure this benefit, and it's just not the right mindset. I totally agree with you. You said something that is, what I try to drill home is, because the biggest competitor is do nothing, is it worth the effort to change? How do you quantify that? How do you make sure that it's worth the effort to change? I think the biggest problem in cybersecurity has nothing to do with some individual threat, risk, vector, attack vector, whatever. It's the negative unemployment rate. There's not enough people to get the job done. And because of that, the environment that it creates of people jumping around to get promotions and the attrition rates is just a nightmare for security leaders to build and maintain teams to effectively use all this stuff that they're buying.
Right.
And so it doesn't matter if on paper your solution says there's this benefit that I can point to and measure. They've got a zillion different problems that you could clearly say, let me show you this benefit. And then how do you figure out how that stacks up across everything else? You're never going to have the pure, clear glass and everything. So how do you shape the mindset to say, is it even worth the effort amongst all the other things that we can do across a changing landscape? How do I start from, is it going to be worth the effort?
Well, since we're talking about that, let's talk about grip then. If I was a CISO on the floor of RSA and I said, oh, you're a grip, heard the name, but I don't know what you guys do.
Sure.
What do you do?
Well, the space that we've created is SaaS identity risk management, which means we take an identity-centric approach to managing the risk of business-led SaaS adoption, which is very pervasive. But I think the value of why we do it and what's really changing is that we give customers a programmatic approach to not just saying thou shalt not, whack-a-mole, don't use anything we didn't approve, but to create an environment where people can more openly adopt what they need if it creates productivity, agility, some kind of competitive advantage that you're trying to capture. So what's the business value associated with people using SaaS while managing to a very defined and aware risk tolerance? Right. So let's shift the model from shadow IT is bad to let's have a risk appetite clearly defined that also is balanced against the productivity allowance that we're talking about. And the technology brings that to light.
And you said identity, though, not just the allowing or disallowing or enabling. There's an identity aspect to this. And
Yes.
tell me more about that.
So rather than taking, like, traditionally shadow IT has been approached from a proxy, network centric, URL source based destination type approach to say, well, if people are going here, we need to stop them from going there. And that approach has proven to fail. It just doesn't work for all kinds of reasons. But what we realize is not just the fact that that's noisy, it's the options for how to mitigate the risk are too black and white. It's either block or allow, right? Or maybe you're applying some DLP controls against what data. But the reality is people need to use these apps to get their job done. The data is going to have to go there since they're not. You open up all kind of exceptions, yada, yada. But without getting too much further into the weeds here, the identity-based approach is what are they doing with their corporate identity to sign up for all these different applications? So this is the stuff they're actually using for business. This is the gray area. This is the stuff that it is legitimate business use apps. We're not going to go and shut it all down or we'll get riots in the streets. People want to be productive. They're just trying to get their job done and meet deadlines. That's a good thing. But let's do it in a way where we get high signal, low noise, and also give us the ability to use the right kind of controls, and they're identity-based controls. It's get it behind single sign-on, have the ability to revoke access when they leave the organization. If I need to apply MFA at certain risk thresholds or data, types of data, regulated stuff, great. Like, let's understand the type of risk mitigation strategies that don't just fully allow or fully block. There's a ton in the middle. And this is where an identity-centric approach allows you to apply the right level of control, the right risk mitigation strategy without impeding productivity more than needs to be.
Right. So it takes the very blunt approach of CASB, for example, and says, well, there's a lot more to this than that. And let's be a lot more intelligent about it.
Exactly.
Okay. Now, for your team, would you look out for this year, would you prefer that they have leads and opportunities where they have lots of them at lower deal values, or do you want less of them at higher deal values?
Oh my gosh, this is like a religious debate of any startup. I see both sides. I'd say in this economy, I want bigger volume on lower deal values. I want to spread the risk of things that happen and whatever, right? Like, I want more volume. I think you learn faster as an organization. You have the benefits, I think, on that side outweigh. Now, when you look at like the cost to support from a customer success, I think it's really important for any early stage company, especially ones that are defining a new market segment and best practices along with how it should be approached. Customer success is critical, and you're not going to outsource that to something that's not core to your mission, your vision, how you're going to run it. So customer success ain't cheap. And so it's better to apply those customer success teams to large customers that have large deals, signed with you. But if you limit yourself on the number of at-bats, you miss an opportunity to learn at the pace that you need to learn to go build a market. So, I'll take the benefits of more volume, smaller deal.
Is the sweet spot in the smaller deals, but in bigger companies that you can expand that for?
100%.
Yeah.
Absolutely. Yeah. I look at driving revenue in three different pillars, where you've got your repeatable deal machine, average deal cycle, right? Like average sales size or average, ASP, average deal size, and that you can crank out in a predictable way. That's one thing you're trying to create. Then you've got strategic accounts. So maybe you do, if it's an either or, I'll take the volume. But really, if you're looking at like what's the best possible approach, you want to have your deal machine where you get repeatable, average deal sizes without a ton of creative effort needed for that. Then you've got strategic accounts that should really press the envelope of what you're doing as an organization, where you should go next, and how you put resources behind what they're asking of you to evolve, right? And really pick those in a meaningful way, and make sure that serious revenue is tied to it to support why you're doing what you're doing for these strategic accounts that fuel your growth into the next phase of the company. And then it's all of your channel and strategic alliances, right? All the nonlinear growth factors of how do you get the whole ecosystem around your go-to-market firing in all cylinders outside your sales team.
There's a lot of different moving parts there. Do you have dedicated heads in your team for each of those areas? Or do the first two kind of melt together a little bit?
The first two meld together a good amount. We're B round. So I'd say, as of recently, I've pushed more of the deal machine, the repeatable average deal size to my first line managers.
Okay.
And then I'm currently second line manager. So as head of global sales, there's only one line of managers underneath me recently promoted. So that's
Okay.
even relatively new for us.
Yep.
I'm still very much owning the strategic account side. So when we have I'm very heavily involved even in the day-to-day operations of the deal. And then I've got a director that runs global channels for us. And we're actually bringing on another leader for strategic partnerships, which are a little bit different than your channel reseller world. And as you know, right, we like separate the two different approaches to channel, like reseller channel and strategic alliances. So other technology vendors that we have a joint go-to-market value prop where 2 + 2 = 6.
Right.
Right. So, yeah, we actually have the two functions separated.
Different question for you. What is one thing in sales or marketing today that everyone just believes to be true that you think is complete bullshit?
Oh God. That the problem is lack of budget.
Okay. Tell me more.
I just think it's the most common. Here's why I can't hit the number is because budgets are constrained and people don't have budget. And I think that's, I know it's total bullshit because it's a matter of them not being empowered to go get the budget. Sure, their path to budget may have changed. How that budget gets released and allocated has changed and everybody's tightening up. But when you look at the public, like the 10Ks are public, these people have money, like more than they used to even, right? So it's not really an availability of cash to do things that impact the business if you can justify the value of the change. Like
It's a prioritization.
Yeah, exactly. It's so, when I hear this so often of like, well, I didn't get the deal done or the deal pushed because they don't have budget yet, they're not going to have budget till next year or whatever. And I'm not trying to rip on, sales people that it's just like the reality. I wish that more would get into the mindset of that's not a real objection. That's a nicety that a customer tells you to say, it's not you, it's me. But the reality is what they're telling you is you didn't empower me enough to go build this case. I don't feel like I've got enough here to go put my name on this and say, I can confidently say this impacts the business to give me the money and I'm going to deliver success.
Yeah.
That's the real objection.
I love that. Love that. All right, let's play a bit of a game here. Fizzle or sizzle. Which of these do you think is going to sizzle and grow and be a big thing, and which of these is going to fizzle out?
All right.
First one, fizzle or sizzle, this Cybertruck.
I mean, I'm having a lot of fun, but I think it's going to fizzle.
Tell me.
It's
So
we
bizarre.
don't even know what the hell is in the back. Like, I don't even know, like, if this thing it looks cool and it's like, oh, wow.
I literally can't see out the back window.
It's got a fake rear view mirror. It's like, I just don't see. I think at some point, pragmatic utility has to take over and say, yeah, this thing just doesn't make sense. It's fun, though.
It's fun. It's fun. Next one, fizzle or sizzle. The idea that Palo Alto is going to have the cybersecurity platform that everyone's going to be using.
That idea, I think, is already, well, I guess it's like, it depends on the camp, but definitely fizzle. Like, they're just way too much proof in, if the pace that Palo Alto can go innovate doesn't match the pace of the innovation of the attackers, which is clearly what's happening, they have to rely on the innovation world. And there's a reason why they don't build everything and they buy it. Like, let the innovation world figure out the next, areas, let them go through the pain of maybe being right, maybe being wrong. And once they've proven it's the real deal, we'll just buy them. And it's a necessary part of the ecosystem of how that platform stays relevant. So there's no way that everything else just goes away and it's all Palo.
Yeah.
Or we're all screwed.
Similar vein. So today, Wiz announced a $1 billion round at 12 billion, I believe, was the valuation there or thereabouts. In 5 years' time, who's going to have the biggest valuation, Palo Alto or Wiz?
I think it's still Palo Alto. I don't think 5 years is enough to get Wiz on their same scale from a valuation perspective. However, 10 years, I think it's Wiz.
Okay.
So, yeah, like the nature of the question, I do think Wiz is the next this is the cyber platform that makes sense for the way our economy is moving and the way that these companies run.
Slightly different question. What's a bigger waste of money? This Cybertruck or a booth at Black Hat?
Ah, probably a booth at Black Hat. No, sorry, Black Hat. I didn't say that. That question totally depends on the market maturity that you're in, right? Like your market segment, are there live active buyers that have budget allocated to spend in a segment? They've already identified the segment. I'm going to do, IoT security. Okay, great. If that's if that's where your market is, spend the money on the Black Hat booth. You're going to get an ROI. If you're thinking you're going to create opportunities that aren't budgeted with Black Hat traffic, I think that you're going to be sorely mistaken and not happy with the ROI that you get from that booth, man.
Yeah, that's fair. All by expectation that we're trying to achieve, I guess.
Yeah.
And I guess the biggest question of today is, do you believe that Taylor Swift and Travis Kelce will make it through the offseason?
Oh yeah, they're the real deal. They're going to be the love story of our generation.
You believe in love?
Yeah, fully at first sight. As soon as I saw you in this Cybertruck, honestly, I was like, this is my Travis Kelce. That makes me T Swift. I'm T Swift. You're Travis Kelce in this scenario. Yeah.
Well, Drew, it's been a lot of fun having you on the drive, and I wish you and the team success for this year and beyond.
I love it. Thank you, Andrew. I appreciate you picking me up and giving me a little fun here in the break of the day.
It was good.